Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Greetings, Algo artisans. It is December the 22nd, the week of Christmas, and we're going to take a look at the charts today. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Solana, EURUSD, the cable, GBPUSD, USDJPY. We're going to look at SP500 Futures, Dow Jones Futures, NASDAQ Futures, gold, and silver. And let's take a quick look at the economic data releases coming out this week before we take a look at the charts. So on Monday the 23rd, we have a little bit of data coming out. We have the Canadian GDP, which might affect Canadian dollar trades. We've got Christmas Eve. A lot of banks going to be closed. Not a lot's going to happen. In fact, that's going to be the story of the week. The trick is that some information coming out from Japan. Governor Ueda will speak. However, that affects the markets that are still open, whether that's crypto or Forex. We'll see how that goes. But most everything's closed on December the 25th, that's Christmas. The 26th, Boxing Day, if you will. We do have some data coming out. That's Thursday. That's the weekly unemployment claims. Comes out every week at 8:30 AM EST. Not much on Friday. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's going to be a very quiet week, but there's one caveat to that, one disclaimer, and it's going to have to do with Bitcoin. Now, I've been doing this a minute. When it comes to crypto, I've been in crypto since 2017, and I have made it a priority to understand Bitcoin. And one of the things that happens is that price gets pushed around when nobody's watching. I've seen it on holidays. I've seen it on Super Bowl. I've seen it when everybody is busy doing something else. That's when Bitcoin makes a hard move. And it doesn't necessarily mean to the downside, although it very well could mean to the downside. At this point in the Bitcoin cycle, there should still be some time left, right? Bitcoin should still keep going up. Now, we might have seen the high at 108. That might have been it. Price might go down forever. That's possible, but I do think we're going to see at least $120,000 Bitcoin before the bull market is over. And the bull market could be over as soon as the end of the year or maybe January, and it might also not be over as late as the summer. But historically, the bull market has ended during those times, right at the end of the halving year or somewhere in the middle of the post-halving year. And in this case, that's the end of this year in the next week or two, or it would be sometime in 2025, like we just talked about. Summertime. So this week, if you were to look at the calendar, the algos, it really should not have a lot going on with Bitcoin. You shouldn't see Bitcoin doing too much. But like I said, when nobody's watching, a lot can happen. So maybe Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Santa Claus flies over your house and Bitcoin takes a big fat dump down to 78,000. It could happen. Or maybe none of it happens. Or maybe Bitcoin does what I thought it would do last week and goes ahead and breaks out back to the upside after scaring everybody out at 91, 92,000. Now let me explain another thing. I know that somebody is new to crypto when I get phone calls and emails and text messages and smoke signals and everything else. Hey, what's going on with Bitcoin? Why is it falling? It's like it's falling because it's falling. It's falling because that is what it does. The pullback that we saw from 108 down to 92,000 is completely normal, and especially normal for Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin is volatile. People are not used to crypto. They're used to stocks. Some of them move at comparatively a snail's pace. Bitcoin is volatile, and this pullback to the low 90s is healthy and normal. Even if it were to pull back to below 80,000. As long as it didn't stay there for too long, that would be pretty normal for the bull market. And, by the way, what's normal? We've only seen 4 halvings. We don't really know how these things behave from a data science standpoint. Now, they have more or less behaved the same throughout these halvings. There are some similarities, there are some differences, and every halving has its quirks. We're going to see in the next few weeks and months whether or not this halving is going to do what most halvings do and continue up through January, February, and after. So let's take a look at Solana. Solana, I know a lot of people wanted to buy a lot of Solana around 220, and then it just kept stair-stepping down. Well, I've been having it stair-step down my prior looks. Here you can see the older look. I did have it not going up, and as things got more bearish, I did have things heading down, but I did think that after a number of weeks it would head up, and that was a little more of a higher time frame look on this, okay? It may do that, but I'm now thinking with this most recent projection, this yellow line, which is what I think is going to happen in the near future, I do think it's going to maybe head down, scare some people out. Might touch this 150, 160 level. It could do it. It's in the algos to be possible, but Solana is a powerful crypto. Now, it has had a heck of a run. It might need to cool off. I don't think it's done yet for the bull market unless Bitcoin is done, but I do expect Solana to head down a little bit. However, it could just pop up unexpectedly. And that's why I have these contingencies of Solana popping up. But even if it does pop up like that, it could still head back down. That's what I'm looking at. EURUSD. That's a mess of predictions there, and the reason I have so many weird looks there is because I kept reevaluating. I thought there was more gas in the can, and I certainly didn't go long here because of the way price action was behaving, algos, etc. But as we had this move down here after this blue sort of prediction from a week or two ago became invalidated, that's when I decided to go ahead and consider that it was going to continue down, and you see all these nasty down arrows. It's a very, very messy bit of drawings here, but again, I had predicted out more than my usual 1 week. I predicted out about 2 weeks, and to a certain degree, these were relatively accurate. It did come back up. It tried to reclaim the top of this range right about $5.9, and it didn't make it even halfway there, and it broke below very strongly. It did pull back up to where more or less I thought it would, but that move down had to do with the stock market and the Fed rate cut. And even though 25 basis points was priced into the market, for some reason the hawkish talk that came from Powell really crushed a lot of prices down. We had a brutal week, unexpected. Basically, the market has been pricing in cuts. So for Powell to be so hawkish towards the end of the year, it did cause a bit of a panic out in markets. It was unexpected, and that's why the predictions last week, they ended up where I thought they would be, but they took a wide detour in many cases. British pound versus the dollar, aka the cable. So yeah, we're seeing the same kind of thing. I thought it would head up, but Powell spoke as he spoke, and it plummeted down, and I did have always in the plan a move back down. It's just that it headed down way more quickly than I thought it would. Now, as it stands, I do think right now that there is plenty of room to head down, but I think it might take a break from doing that just because of the holiday week. We might see a bit of sideways, and then I do think it will make its way down in maybe a more orderly fashion than the euro, right? It's always been a little bit bullish, at least for the past few months. Now, USDJPY did what I thought it would. It just did it a lot more quickly. So the red prediction was correct. It just happened way more quickly than I thought. And at this point in the time, I really see no reason for that bullishness to stop. It is extending up. There is room for it to head up, maybe a little more slowly, maybe not. Maybe it'll just go straight up. And I did have this as a more of a 2-week prediction. Like I said last week, I did extend my predictions out, but I do think we're going to see price inch up towards this 161.98 target that I had listed out. It might even go a little bit below that before it turns around. I don't know if it'll be a straight line. It very well could. They've been rather hawkish as well all year. So we might see that move up, and that would be consistent with what we saw last week. So at least I got this one right. And that had a lot to do with the Bank of Japan's data that came out, their interest rate announcements. SP500, it took a nasty move down based on Powell, came right back up because the plunge protection team probably kept it from falling. And you see it right where I said it would be. It just went a different route. So I thought it would go sideways, end up here. Price was nuked down by Powell and then crushed right back up by the market. And there it is, right where I thought it would be. So in the end, I was right, but the path there was a little different than expected. And again, like we saw with the rest of the markets, Powell kind of trashed the markets with his talk, and that's fine. It is what it is. That's part of trading. I basically didn't trade the day before any of this, the day before the day of, so this didn't really affect me because I do not trade on FOMC outside of some scalps. If I were to predict where I think it's going to go, it's going to have a lot to do with what they decide to do, aka the Fed, plunge protection team, all that type of stuff. If they want to hold it up, it's probably going to go sideways, and that's pretty expectable. I wouldn't be surprised to see it do so. We do have, like I said, a slow week. If I were to predict where a range might be, it might be in here, but I get the feeling the team, plunge protection team, is going to send it back up a little bit. I think that's going to happen across the board, but I have no idea. I'm not going to be trading it. It's Christmas. I'm probably not going to trade it all this week. I almost didn't do an update, but I know everybody wants to see what's going on. So big fat disclaimer, very unexpectable this week, right? And it might be unremarkable as far as especially the indices go. Now, NASDAQ did reject. I'm going to blame Powell on that one. I did expect it to continue up, but it got nuked right back down. As it stands right here, I do expect sideways to up. And I only expect that because I'm assuming that the plunge protection team is probably going to keep it from going down any further than it did. And usually those moves down kind of push back up after that happens. happens, but I could be totally wrong. I'm not necessarily seeing this in the algos, whether it's the SP500, Dow, or NASDAQ. It's just kind of what happens usually. I'm not going to be trading it, and I wouldn't trade it based on this information. This is just what might happen, and it simply could go sideways because of the lack of activity and all the holidays. Gold took its hit. It didn't range how I thought it would, but it more or less ranged anyway, just a broader range. It's right back where it was before, after Powell nuked everything. And again, I don't expect a ton of action from precious metals. While things could happen, it's a holiday, so I expect price to remain around this 2620 to 2650 or 2660 area. Silver rebounding from its move down, the same as gold. Of course, these prior week predictions were on point, but now we're dealing with the aftermath of that. So we have the Powell crush, and after that, I think it will probably pop up and hang out in that 29-ish area and sort of be very calm. That's what I expect for most everything this week. It's Christmas week. Like I said, I almost did not do an update, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging, right? So this is a week that I take off. I don't really trade. I don't mess around. I'll be talking to Algo Factory a couple of days this week, but in the end, I think it's just a nice time to take some time off, see your family, travel, study. If you don't want to do any of that, you can study, do your back testing. And that's what we do over at Algo Factory, right? We teach people how to build trading algorithms. We teach people how to use a very basic version of data science to predict where price might go in the charts. And when you can predict to a statistical degree of probability where price is going to go, you can extract money out of these markets. And that's what we're here to do. Come on over, algofactory.tech, learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, and we will see you next week.